So I want you to imagine sitting down to study English for the very first time. You open your brand new beginner's textbook, and you're fully expecting the usual stuff.
Right, like, hello, my name is John.
Exactly. Hello, John. Or maybe the apple is on the table, right? But instead, you sit down, and the very first sentence you were asked to translate is, my boss fired me, so I married his father.
Which is, yeah, that is quite the departure from, politely asking for directions to the train station.
It is entirely unhinged in the best possible way. And, well, welcome to today's deep dive. We're stepping totally out of the dry, dusty language classroom today.
Absolutely.
We're exploring this highly specific and honestly unexpectedly cinematic corner of the internet. Our mission today is to figure out how this grueling, historically just completely boring task of learning English as a second language.
Oh, yeah, the flashcards.
Ugh, the flashcards.
Yeah.
How that has been completely transformed into this high-stakes, popcorn-munching, cinematic soap opera experience.
And the source material we're using to really unpack this phenomenon is just fascinating.
It really is.
We are looking at a single, incredibly dense snapshot of a YouTube webpage. It's from September 16th, 2025. And it's basically a portal into this sprawling digital ecosystem of ESL, English as a second language.
Right.
Specifically, it's a modern evolution of what educators actually call graded readers.
Okay, wait, before we go further into the weeds here, I think we need to define what a graded reader actually is.
Sure.
Because, my memory of them is basically just reading this incredibly watered-down version of, like, Tom Sawyer in my middle school Spanish class.
Yeah, that's the very traditional definition of it. So a graded reader is actually a centuries-old pedagogical tool.
Centuries old, really?
Oh, yeah. Basically, you take a complex story and you rewrite it using a strictly limited pool of foundational words. So say just the 500 most common words in a specific language.
Okay, so it's artificially restricted.
Exactly. The goal there is to allow an absolute beginner to read an entire narrative without having to, constantly stop to open a dictionary every 5 seconds.
Because that ruins the momentum.
Right. It totally kills the momentum. Reading a graded reader builds confidence. But what we are seeing in this snapshot is that the text-based graded reader has essentially evolved into full-blown audio dramas.
It's like they've become movies. Which brings us to the actual anchor text of our source today. The main video on this page is from a channel called Kavico English Storytime.
Kavico, right.
And the title of this foundational English lesson, I Married My Boss.
Complete with, of course, a fire emoji right there in the title.
Oh, you have the other fire emoji. So the full title is, I Married My Boss, Learn English Through Story Level 1 or Graded Reader Listening Practice.
With a lot to take in.
It's a whole cinematic universe. We are looking at a landscape of secret identities, billionaires, betrayals, and just, shocking plot twists.
All for level 1 learners.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at the view counts here. 340,000 people are watching a grammar lesson about marrying an employer. I'm genuinely trying to understand the psychological hook here. Why is this working so well?
Well, the hook is really rooted in cognitive science, actually. Specifically, it's a concept known as narrative transport.
Narrative transport. Okay.
Yeah, the creators of these videos, they are essentially using the universal cross-cultural appeal of cinematic storytelling to, hijack the brain's learning centers.
Wow. Hijacking the brain.
Basically, let's look at the methodology that Kavico explicitly states in their description. They promise to deliver English, quote, slowly, clearly, and with simple words to improve listening skills.
Right. But there's an incredible friction there, don't you think?
How so?
You have the delivery method, right?
Yeah.
Which is super slow, clear, soothing. It's meant to be accessible and safe for an absolute beginner. But then the thematic content is this fast-paced, high-stakes romance.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It feels like two completely different speeds colliding, like driving a sports car at 10 miles an hour.
That friction is actually the defining feature of this entire ecosystem. By explicitly labeling the video level 1, the channel is building a psychological safety net for the viewer.
A safety net.
Yeah. In language acquisition theory, there's this really important concept called the affective filter. It was proposed by this linguist named Stephen Krashen.
Effective with an A.
Yes, effective. Essentially, if a student feels anxious or bored or overwhelmed, their brain throws up this metaphorical filter that literally blocks language absorption.
Oh, wow. So if I'm, like, terrified of making a mistake in class, or if I'm just bored to tears listening to a dialogue about buying a train ticket,
Which is always the classic example.
always the train ticket, my brain just refuses to retain the vocabulary.
Exactly. The information just bounces right off. So the level 1 tag, that lowers the anxiety. It tells the learner, hey, don't panic. You already know these words.
It's a safe space.
It is. But to prevent the other half of that effective filter from kicking in, which is boredom, they match that safe linguistic label with a highly emotionally charged title like, I married my boss.
I love this. It's like drafting in competitive cycling.
Grafting.
Yeah, you ride right behind someone to reduce wind resistance. The melodrama is creating this narrative slipstream. The new vocabulary words, they don't have to fight the heavy wind resistance of boredom or cognitive difficulty. They just get, like, pulled along in the wake of the juicy plot.
That is an incredibly apt way to visualize it. I really like that. And if we take that a step further into the neurology of memory, we can see exactly why this works so effectively on a biological level.
Okay, lay it on me.
When you experience a sudden spike in emotion, so shock, suspense, romantic tension, your brain releases dopamine.
Right, the feel-good chemical.
Yes, but dopamine doesn't just make you feel good. It essentially acts as a save button for your memory.
Wait, really? A save button?
Yeah, so if I'm trying to teach you the word stapler, and the context is just me reading an office supply inventory list.
Total snooze fest. Zero dopamine.
Exactly, no dopamine. But if the context is, he threw the stapler at the wall because he discovered her terrible secret.
Oh, the drama.
Right. Your brain gets a massive hit of dopamine from that cinematic drama, and the word stapler gets permanently cemented into your vocabulary.
Because the emotional adrenaline forces the retention. That is brilliant.
It is, but this also raises a really crucial pedagogical challenge for the teachers making these.
Which is what?
Well, when a student is operating at an A1 or A2 level, those are the absolute beginner stages, their cognitive load is just immense.
Just to listen.
Yes. Simply parsing where one spoken word ends and the next one begins takes active, exhausting effort.
Wait, I actually want to clarify something there. When you say the cognitive load is immense, do you mean the sheer exhaustion of, like, translating in your head? Because I remember leaving high school French class feeling physically tired.
Yes, exactly. That physical tiredness. Your working memory is juggling, phone recognition, syntactical rules, and active translation all at the exact same time.
It's like running a marathon in your brain.
Totally. So if you add a super complex plot on top of that, you risk overwhelming the learner completely. And the filter goes back up. This is why the sidebar of our source material, the recommended videos on the right, is so illuminating. It shows us exactly how these creators solve the problem of cognitive overload.
Let me actually read some of these titles from the recommended sidebar because they're absolute gold. We have Kaviko's My Boss Wants Me.
Very direct.
Very. We have My Secret with a Colleague with 59,000 views. We have My Husband Doesn't Know My Real Name with his little female detective emoji sitting at 18,000 views.
Love the emoji use there.
Right. And then my personal favorite from a channel called Simple English Narratives. This one has 30,000 views. My Boss Flattered Me. Now I'm His Stepmother. Learn English Story. A1, A2 level.
The narrative whiplash in that stepmother title is truly something to behold.
I mean, I audibly gasped.
It is an entire daytime Emmy plot twist condensed into a single A1 sentence.
It's staggering. But I'm looking at these titles, right? Husband, Boss, Stepmother. And it really feels like they are just directly copying daytime soap operas. Is there a structural teaching reason they rely on these specific relationships? Or are they just grabbing whatever gets clicks?
It's actually highly strategic. Think about the absolute first words you ever learn in any new language.
Oh, well, counting. Colors.
Sure, but then you learn the family tree, right? Mother, father, husband, sister, stepmother.
Right.
And you learn the basic authority figures. Boss, teacher, police officer. Plus, you learn fundamental high-frequency verbs. Want. No. Fire, marry, choose.
The primal building blocks of language.
Exactly, the primal building blocks. The creators are taking those basic blocks and arranging them into the most explosive configurations possible.
Whoa, I see.
Because think about it. They don't have access to B2 level adjectives like vindictive or clandestine or treacherous to create drama.
because the audience wouldn't understand them. They'd hit a wall.
Right, they'd pause the video to look it up, so they have to generate extreme tension using only A1 nouns.
So boss becomes stepmother.
Yes,
Rough
and
draft.
husband doesn't know real name.
I see. Because the language is so limited, the plot basically has to be totally exaggerated to convey meaning clearly.
That's exactly it.
It actually reminds me of watching an old silent movie.
Oh, that's an interesting comparison. How so?
Well, in the silent film era, the actors couldn't rely on dialogue to express any nuance, right? Because there was no sound. So every facial expression was huge, every physical gesture was massive. The villain didn't just quietly disagree with the hero. He literally tied the hero to the train tracks.
Right, twirling the mustache.
Exactly. Subtlety was totally impossible. And here, in these level 1 videos, subtlety is the enemy of the beginner language learner.
That's a perfect analogy. The broad strokes of the melodrama serve as this incredible contextual safety net.
A safety net.
Yeah, let's say you are listening to "My boss fired me, now I'm his stepmother," right? And maybe you miss a specific preposition, or you completely mishear a verb conjugation.
Which happens constantly when you're a beginner.
Constantly. But the sheer gravity of the situation, the inescapable social tension of being married to your former boss's father, that keeps you oriented in the story. You can infer the missing vocabulary from the sheer dramatic necessity of the scene.
That makes a lot of sense. You might not know the exact word for awkward dinner party, but you feel it in the context.
Exactly. The story is doing the heavy lifting for the grammar.
And looking at the rest of this sidebar from our source material, there's another massive thematic trend here. We've talked about The Office, we've talked about The Family, but we also have these sweeping socioeconomic blockbusters.
Oh, yes, the class struggle narratives. These are incredibly prevalent, and if you look at the data, they draw some of the absolute highest engagement numbers in our data set.
I'm not surprised. Let me give you an example from a channel called Impressive Stories. This one has 204,000 views.
Good.
Ready?
Let's hear it.
On his birthday, a millionaire was denied a table until a single mother changed everything.
Just notice the specific archetypes being deployed there.
Oh, it's straight out of a fairy tale. And here's another one from Simple English Narratives. I was his maid until he found out I'm rich.
And another classic.
And from Orlux Stories, this is an 88,000 view epic. A poor girl was thrown out for being infertile, then a billionaire single dad changed her life.
Wow. If we analyze these through the lens of cinematic history, we are looking at the foundational myths of modern storytelling.
Truly.
It's the Cinderella story, the secret benefactor, the underdog triumphing over the snobby, wealthy elite.
But I guess my question is, why are ESL teachers writing about billionaires and maids? Like, is there an actual pedagogical advantage to these specific, slightly cliché tropes?
There absolutely is. By relying on globally recognized archetypes, the millionaire, the maid, the single mother, the poor girl, the creators completely bypass the need for complex character development.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, in a standard novel, establishing character motivation takes pages and pages of nuanced text.
You have to explain their backstory, their childhood.
Exactly. But in a beginner ESL video, you just don't have the vocabulary for that nuance. So if the narrator simply says billionaire, the learner instantly understands the power dynamic.
We know who has the money and the power.
Right. If the narrator says maid, the learner knows exactly who is struggling, who is probably being mistreated, and most importantly, who to root for.
So the social roles act as a psychological shortcut.
Precisely.
The learner doesn't have to spend precious cognitive energy trying to figure out why the characters are acting the way they are. The archetype explains the motivation for them, which frees up their brain to focus entirely on translating the English being spoken.
Yes. And we can't ignore the fact that the algorithm also plays a super heavy hand in this.
Ah, the YouTube algorithm, the invisible hand shaping our education.
Always. The recommendation system heavily rewards high click-through rates and long watch times. A traditional dry language lesson titled, say, Learn English Vocabulary, the restaurant might get a click, but the viewer is going to drop off after 5 minutes once they've diligently written down the words for fork and napkin.
Because they're bored. The effective filter goes up. But a story about a millionaire being publicly humiliated at a restaurant and then saved by a single mother. I want to click on that right now.
Exactly.
The pacing of that title, it reads exactly like a voiceover for a movie trailer. I can literally hear the deep inner world, movie guy voice, saying it.
It taps into very universal human fantasies, vindication, justice, sudden wealth. And what's brilliant is that regardless of the learner's native culture or their native language, the concept of the underdog winning is just intoxicating.
It translates perfectly.
It really does. The algorithm demands engagement, and narrative vindication is simply the most engaging tool these creators have available.
Okay, so we spent a lot of time on level 1 today. The A1 and A2 beginners. This chaotic world of maids, bosses, random firings, and sudden marriages.
The pure melodrama.
Right. But this source material also gives us a map of what happens when the student levels up. And I want to talk about that. Let's talk about the grammar of drama.
Oh, this is one of my favorite parts of the data. The way this ecosystem maps the CEFR levels.
That's the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Which grades proficiency from A1 up to C2. The way they map those grammatical levels to emotional and narrative complexity is just an elegant piece of educational design.
Let's break down how that actually looks for the listener.
Yeah.
At level 1, like we just discussed, the titles describe very direct physical states. I married a stranger with 122,000 views. I married old man for wealth with 27,000 views.
It's very transactional.
Extremely. It's subject, verb, object. It is happening in the tangible physical world.
Right, because the vocabulary at level 1 is concrete. You can physically point to a maid, you can point to a wedding ring, or an old man or a farm. And the grammatical structure relies really heavily on the present simple or past simple tenses. He fired me. I married him.
Very black and white. But then we look at the level 2 videos in our source, which target the B1 and B2 intermediate learners, and suddenly the titles get moody.
Moody is a great word for it.
Yeah. We have, he texted, I'm sorry, from Teddy English Stories. We have My Love Destroyed Us from Kaviko. And he chose his family, not me, with 111,000 views.
Let's look at the actual grammar mechanism shifting here, because it's fascinating. By level 2, the stories require the learner to process abstract nouns.
Abstract meaning things you can't touch.
Exactly. Love is an abstract concept. You can't point to it in a room
Right.
and look at the verb destroyed in the context of a relationship.
My love destroyed us.
That implies causality, metaphorical action, and deep emotional devastation. It requires an understanding of complex past tenses and conjunctions. And a title like He Chose His Family, Not Me introduces the concept of exclusion and moral dilemmas.
That is heavy.
To understand these level 2 stories, the learner has to be able to track internal emotional states, not just external physical action.
The drama has moved entirely inside their heads. Level 1 is a physical event happening to me. I was thrown out. Level 2 is deep internal regret. My love destroyed us.
And the pedagogical demands push even further when we examine levels 3 and 4 in the source data. We actually move past romantic melodrama entirely and enter an entirely different genre.
Oh man, level 3 and 4 get intense. I was looking at these. We have level 3 video. He loved 2 women. Okay, methy. But then we hit level 4, the advanced stage. There is a video here from a channel called English Parlor, and the title is Who Took My Child? Level 4 Listening Practice.
We have officially entered the mystery and thriller genre, and I want you to think about the cognitive demands required to understand a mystery in a second language.
I mean, Who Took My Child is not just a soap opera anymore. That's a true crime podcast. That's a prestige HBO drama. I imagine the grammar required for that is a massive, massive leap from I Married My Boss.
It is a fundamental shift in linguistic complexity.
Myself.
Well, to resolve a mystery story, the learner has to track clues over an extended timeline. They have to follow nonlinear narratives, flashbacks, and sometimes even unreliable narrators.
Oh, so they're being lied to by the narrator. That's advanced.
Exactly. And grammatically, this requires mastery of things like the past perfect continuous tense.
Give me an example of that.
So, for example, a sentence like, if she had been watching him at the park, he wouldn't have been taken.
Oh, wow.
You literally cannot solve the mystery without understanding complex, hypothetical, and conditional grammar.
It's like watching the evolution of cinema right in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. A1 is the early action film, pure spectacle, obvious plots, the silent film train coming right at the camera.
Yeah.
B2 is the romantic drama focusing on dialogue and relationship fallout. And then level 4 is the indie psychological thriller, where the audience has to read between the lines, understand internal conflict, and parse these conditional threats.
It really is an evolution. And if you are listening to this right now, consider how profoundly satisfying that progression must feel for the actual learner.
Oh, that.
You aren't just memorizing lists of disjointed words anymore. You are unlocking the ability to feel complex emotions, suspense, profound regret, terror in a completely different tongue.
It really is a superpower when you think about it. You start out just wanting to know how to order a coffee without awkwardly pointing at the menu, and a few months later you are weeping over a fictional text message that says "I'm sorry" in a second language. The emotional payoff of the story is the reward for mastering the grammar.
Beautifully said. And, the source material also reveals that these creators don't just restrict themselves to modern settings either.
Oh, right. The historical stuff.
Yeah, there is a thriving subgenre operating in this ecosystem that completely shifts the aesthetic and the vocabulary.
The genre hopping here is truly incredible. We leave the modern office building with the staplers, the water coolers, and the cell phones, and suddenly we are thrust into a historical or Regency-era romance.
Total Bridgerton vibes.
Exactly. Let's look at a video from a channel called Silent Longing. It has 90,000 views. The title is, "She was sold to an old duke, but his wedding night gift changed everything."
And another one from a channel called Tumble Myth with 56,000 views. He inherited a bride-like property, but meeting her rewrote his destiny.
I find it fascinating how the entire branding of the channels changes to match the genre. Like when we were dealing with modern office dramas and stepmothers, the channel was called Simple English Narratives. Very utilitarian. It does exactly what it says on the tin.
Very pragmatic.
But when we move to the historical dramas, we suddenly get these highly poetic, evocative studio names. Silent Longing, Tumble Myth.
Right, the atmosphere is established before the video even begins. But the real pedagogical question here is the profound vocabulary shift required for these historical dramas.
Right, because the words used in these titles are entirely different from the modern videos. We're not talking about a boss or a millionaire or a colleague anymore. We are talking about a duke. We have words like inherited, destiny, property.
Exactly. The language instruction expands from practical, everyday English to literary, dramatic English. The verbs elevate from fired and wants to sold, inherited, and rewrote. The nouns are suddenly grandiose.
Which really makes me wonder about the end goal of the student here.
What do you mean?
Well, if I'm watching Simple English Narratives to learn about an office, maybe I'm preparing for a job interview in London or New York. I genuinely need to know how to talk to a colleague. But if I'm watching Silent Longing to learn about an old duke and inherited brides, what exactly am I training for? Am I trying to use the word destiny at the local grocery store?
Probably not. It's highly probable that learners engaging with this specific subgenre have a completely different set of goals.
So what are they trying to do?
They aren't just preparing for modern, practical conversations at an airport or a bank. They are specifically training to read English literature.
Oh, I see.
They want to be able to read Jane Austen or the Bronte sisters in their original text. Or, honestly, more commonly these days, they want to be able to watch English period dramas like Bridgerton or Downton Abbey without relying on subtitles.
That makes perfect sense. So the graded reader is acting as this sort of stepping stone between a beginner's textbook and a dense 19th century novel.
Exactly. It's bridging that massive gap by giving them the specialized vocabulary of romance and aristocracy, words like duke, dowry, inheritance, but keeping the underlying sentence structure relatively accessible.
It proves that the digital language learning space caters to highly specific aesthetic and literary tastes. The creators have developed specialized cinematic toolboxes to cater to these different genres.
And since we were talking about the creator's toolbox, there is a very practical problem here that we haven't actually addressed yet.
Oh, what's that?
Think about it. If I'm an absolute beginner operating at an A1 level, how do I even know which of these epic sagas to click on if I can't fully read the title yet?
If it's all in English and I don't know English, that's a huge barrier.
That's exactly where the visual packaging comes in, and honestly, it is an absolute masterclass in formatting suspense.
Formatting suspense. I like that phrase.
The visual and textual formatting used across these sources is meticulously designed to hook the viewer and provide a navigational beacon. In this digital cinematic universe, text formatting is essentially the equivalent of lighting and a musical score.
Okay, let's look at the strategic use of all-cap PS then. Going back to that impressive stories video with 275,000 views, the title is, "After 7 years, the millionaire visits his ex on the farm. What she was hiding left him shocked."
Okay, let's isolate exactly which words are capitalized in that title.
Years, millionaire, ex, hiding, Shocked.
Notice what those words do.
It's literally shouting the core plot points at you.
Yes, because it serves as a vital visual scaffold for the language learner. Even if the beginner doesn't understand the connecting grammar, they might not know after or visits his or what she was, the capitalized words alone tell them the exact emotional arc of the video.
Let me see. Time is years, wealth is millionaire, past relationship is X, secret is hiding, and the emotional payoff is shocked. You do not need to know a single other word in that sentence to know exactly what kind of movie you were about to watch.
Exactly. The capitalization acts like a spotlight on a stage, directing the learner's attention to the high-value vocabulary they absolutely must focus on to understand the plot.
That is so smart.
And alongside the capitalization, we have the emojis, which serve an equally important yet distinct linguistic function.
Oh, we have to talk about the emojis. They're essentially acting as genre tags, aren't they? They're doing so much heavy lifting. We see the fire emoji used constantly for drama and romance. I married my boss, fire emoji. My secret with a widower, fire emoji.
Right, because the fire emoji universally signals passion, conflict, and heat. It primes the learner's brain for emotional intensity before they even read the word married.
And in the video, my husband doesn't know my real name, they use the female detective emoji. That immediately communicates mystery, secret identity snooping around.
Yep.
And in the video, where the boss fires her and she becomes his stepmother, they use the nail polish emoji.
Which perfectly encapsulates the sass, the revenge, and the sort of I won attitude of that specific plot twist.
It's so petty, I love it.
Yeah.
And for the maid who is secretly wealthy, it's the diamond emoji.
So the emojis function as universal language agnostic symbols. For a true beginner, looking at a solid wall of English text can trigger that effective filter we talked about earlier.
The anxiety wall.
Yes. It can be incredibly intimidating. The emoji bridges the gap before the English comprehension even kicks in. It tells the brain, hey, this is a story about wealth, or this is a story about revenge, giving them the confidence to click play.
But there is a final data point in this source material that, to me, contextualizes everything we've discussed today. The formatting, the melodrama, the dopamine hits, and that is the actual duration of these videos.
The runtimes, yes.
The sheer length of these audio dramas is staggering. If you're listening to this right now, you are probably thinking, there is no way I could sit through a language lesson for more than 20 minutes without losing my mind.
And you'd usually be right.
But look at the runtimes on these videos. That millionaire visits his ex video, it's over an hour and a half long. 1 hour, 31 minutes, and 14 seconds.
It's a feature-length film.
In the video, a poor girl was thrown out for being infertile is nearly 2 hours, 1 hour, 54 minutes, and 18 seconds.
And it gets longer.
The Regency period piece, she was sold to an old duke, is 2 hours and 37 minutes. That is longer than most blockbuster movies playing in theaters right now. Asking an A1 beginner to listen to 2.5 hours of a foreign language is a massive, almost cruel ask.
Theoretically, asking a beginner to process a foreign language for that duration should result in complete mental exhaustion,
Brain melt.
total cognitive overload, and immediate abandonment of the lesson.
If my Spanish teacher handed me a 2.5-hour tape of vocabulary words, I would have dropped the class on the spot and never looked back. But hundreds of thousands of people are voluntarily pressing play on these videos and staying through to the end.
Which proves the central thesis of our entire discussion. The cinematic narrative is doing the heavy lifting of keeping them engaged.
The story is the engine.
Yes. The suspense, the burning desire to find out what the EX was hiding on the farm or what the old Duke's wedding night gift actually was, completely overrides the fatigue of learning. The brain's desire for narrative resolution is fundamentally stronger than the cognitive difficulty of parsing the language.
Wow. The medicine is verb conjugation, and the creators have wrapped it in a 2-hour soap opera about a billionaire single dad.
It demonstrates a profound understanding of human psychology by these educators. They know that we are fundamentally storytelling animals. We process the world and we remember the world through narrative.
Well, let's summarize the journey we've been on today. We started out looking at what seemed like a simple, everyday tool for listening practice, a random YouTube channel for ESL learners. But what we uncovered is a sprawling, highly engineered cinematic universe,
Truly an ecosystem.
a place where billionaires, Regency dukes, and evil bosses are serving as the ultimate English teachers.
We saw how simple vocabulary is intentionally manipulated into high-stakes drama to keep cognitive load manageable while maximizing engagement.
Right.
We saw how genres shift from modern office politics to period romances to cater to completely different literary goals. And we analyze how visual cues like all caps and emojis act as navigational beacons for beginners navigating these 2-hour-long foreign language marathons.
It really makes you completely rethink what a classroom looks like in the digital age.
And it leaves us with a final, I think, very provocative thought to consider.
Ooh.
We traditionally think of language as a tool that we use to tell stories, right? First, we learn the words, and then we use those words to weave a narrative.
Right, the language is the cart and the story is the horse.
Exactly. But looking at the massive success of this graded reader ecosystem, is it possible that we have it backward? Is it possible that storytelling is actually the most powerful tool the human brain has?